Shadows of the past. In the small, isolated town of Glamorgan, there stood an old mill that had been empty for decades. The townspeople avoided it, speaking in hushed whispers about the ghost of the mill's owner, a cruel man named Samuel Grimshaw who had met a grisly end at the hands of his workers. The mill, once a symbol of prosperity, now stood as a haunting reminder of the darkness that had tainted the town's history. As one autumn evening, a curious traveler named Thomas arrived in Glamorgan seeking a place to rest on his journey. As he listened to the townspeople's stories about the old mill, he became increasingly intrigued by the legend of Samuel Grimshaw and the ghost that was said to haunt the place. Eager to uncover the truth, Thomas decided to investigate the old mill. Despite the dire warnings of the locals, armed with a flashlight and a brave spirit, Thomas ventured into the decrepit structure. The floorboards creaked and groaned beneath his feet, and an eerie chill filled the air. As he explored the mill, Thomas found himself drawn deeper into the heart of the building, where the shadows seemed to grow darker and more oppressive. Without warning, Thomas found himself plunged into a nightmarish world of shadows and memories as the sins of the past refused to be forgotten. Was thrust into the life of Samuel Grimshaw, witnessing firsthand the cruelty and depravity that had driven the mill owner to his grisly fate. Through the eyes of the workers who had suffered under Grishmash's tyranny, Thomas experienced the torment and pain that had been inflicted upon them. He saw the workers rise up against their oppressor, their anger and despair culminating in a brutal act of vengeance that had sealed Grishmash's fate and condemned his spirit to haunt the mill for eternity. As Thomas struggled to free himself from the nightmarish visions, he began to realize that the shadows of the past were more than just memories. They were the remnants of the souls who had suffered in the mill, their pain and anger still echoing through the crumbling walls. Desperate to escape the clutches of the past, Thomas sought a way to break the cycle of torment that had plagued the mill for generations. He delved deeper into the shadows, searching for the spirit of Samuel Grimshaw, hoping that by confronting the ghost, he could bring an end to the suffering and free the trapped souls. Finally, in the bowels of the mill, Thomas came face to face with the spirit of Samuel Grimshaw. The ghostly figure was a twisted, horrifying reflection of the man he had once been, his soul consumed by the darkness of his deeds. Thomas pleaded with the spirit, urging him to let go of his anger and remorse, and to release the souls that had been trapped in the mill. To his surprise, the ghost of Samuel Grimshaw seemed to listen, his spectral form wavering as though contemplating the possibility of redemption. In a final act of courage, Thomas offered himself as a vessel for the tortured souls, allowing them to pass through him and find peace. The spirit of Samuel Grimshaw, overcome with remorse, agreed to release the trapped souls, finally accepting the consequences of his actions. As the souls flowed through Thomas, he felt an unbearable weight lifting from the mill, the oppressive darkness dissipating like mist before the morning sun. Exhausted and drained, he emerged from the mill, forever changed by the shadows of the past that he had confronted. In the days that followed, the people of Glamorgan noticed a change in the atmosphere of the town. The old mill, once a place of fear and dread, now stood as a symbol of hope and redemption. The ghost of Samuel Grimshaw was gone, and with him the darkness that had haunted the town for so long. The townspeople, once distrustful of Thomas, now embraced him as a hero, grateful for the sacrifices he had made to free them from the shadows of the past. As word of the events at the old mill spread, visitors began to trickle into Glamorgan, curious to see the place where the town's dark history had been laid to rest. The mill, now a monument to the power of redemption, became a place of reflection and healing for those who had been touched by the shadows of their own pasts. Thomas, forever changed by his experiences in Glamorgan, decided to stay in the town, dedicating himself to helping others confront their own darkness and find their path to redemption. He became a guiding light for the people of Glamorgan, helping them to embrace their newfound hope and rebuild their lives. In time, the old mill was restored, transformed into a museum and a center for the study of the town's history. The people of Glamorgan learned to honor the memory of those who had suffered within its walls, using the lessons of the past to build a brighter future. As the years passed, Glamorgan flourished, its once dark reputation replaced by a sense of hope and resilience. The old mill, once a place of fear and dread, now stood as a testament to the power of redemption and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And while the shadows of the past could never truly be forgotten, they no longer held sway over the town or its people. In the end, the people of Glamorgan had found a way to turn their darkest chapter into the Crimson Wheel. In the quaint town of Redwood Hollow, whispers of a chilling legend persisted, despite the passage of time. The old mill, once a bustling center of industry, now lay abandoned and decrepit, shrouded in an eerie silence. Locals spoke in hushed tones of the ghostly woman in a blood-red dress, her eyes burning with fury. The spirit, they said, was that of a young woman named Abigail, brutally murdered within the mill, her body left to decay among the rusted gears. Franklin Baxter, a writer seeking inspiration for his next novel, moved to Redwood Hollow after hearing about the haunting. Intrigued by the town's dark history, he began to investigate the grisly tale, interviewing locals and digging through dusty archives in search of the truth. As he delved deeper into the mystery, Franklin discovered that a girl's murder had been just one in a series of gruesome killings that had plagued the town in the years surrounding the mill's closure. The victims, all young women, had been found in various states of mutilation, their bodies discarded in the shadows of the once magnificent mill. Determined to uncover the truth, Franklin visited the mill one stormy night, armed with a flashlight and a voice recorder. As he stepped inside the crumbling structure, the wine seemed to carry faint whispers of terror, warning him of the horrors that awaited within. It wasn't long before he encountered the ghost of Abigail, her ethereal form cloaked in the crimson dress that had become her eternal shroud. As he approached, Franklin felt a cold dread enveloping him, her furious eyes piercing his very soul. Yet he stood his ground, determined to learn the truth behind her tragic fate. In an anguished voice, Abigail revealed the identity of her killer. The mill's owner, a man named Reginald Blackwood, who had used the cover of darkness and the noise of the machinery to carry out his unspeakable acts. The Crimson Wheel, as the locals had come to call the mill, had been the site of more than just industrial labor. It had been a slaughterhouse. As Franklin listened to Abigail's tale, he felt a growing sense of unease, as though the dark secret of the Crimson Wheel was seeping into his very being. He knew that he had to expose the truth, to bring the killer to justice, even though the man had been dead for decades. Returning to his small rental house, Franklin began to write, recounting the chilling tale of the Crimson Wheel and the ghostly woman who haunted its halls. As the words poured onto the page, he felt a growing sense of dread, as though the very act of telling the story was inviting the darkness into his life. As the days turned into weeks, Franklin found himself haunted by nightmares, his sleep plagued by visions of the Crimson Wheel and the anguished cries of its victims. He became increasingly isolated, consumed by the story he was telling, as the shadows of the past threatened to overtake him. Finally, in a desperate attempt to break free from the grip of the Crimson Wheel, Franklin decided to confront the spirit of Reginald Blackwood, hoping that by facing the man responsible for the horrors of the mill, he could put an end to his own torment. Venturing once more into the depths of the Crimson Wheel, Franklin called out to the ghost of Reginald Blackwood, demanding that he face the consequences of his actions. To his terror, the spirit of the killer appeared, his malevolent presence filling the air with a palpable sense of evil. In a final, desperate battle, Franklin managed to banish the spirit of Reginald Blackwood, freeing the souls of the young women he had tormented in life and death. As the ghostly form of Reginald Blackwood dissipated, the oppressive atmosphere that had shrouded the Crimson Wheel began to lift. The spirits of the young women, including Abigail, appeared before Franklin, their expressions now filled with gratitude and peace. In the days that followed, Franklin felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. The nightmares ceased, and the shadows that had clung to him since delving into the mystery of the Crimson Wheel seemed to vanish. He completed his novelty, detailing the harrowing tale of the haunted mill and the malevolent spirit that had lurked within. Upon its publication, the novel became a sensation, gripping readers with its chilling narrative and the true story. At its core, The people of Redwood Hollow were both horrified and relieved to learn the truth behind the legend of the Crimson Wheel. For the first time in generations, the town began to heal. The dark past that had haunted them for so long finally laid to rest. Franklin, forever changed by his experiences in Redwood Hollow, continued to write, becoming a renowned author of horror and suspense. The ghostly woman in the blood-red dress and the horrors of the Crimson Wheel remained a haunting reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath even the most innocent of facades. As for the old mill itself, it continued to stand as a grim monument to the sins of the past. But the spirits that had once haunted its decaying halls had finally found peace. Their voices no longer carried on the wind, replaced instead by the gentle rustling of leaves and the quiet murmur of the nearby stream. And so the Crimson Wheel, once a place of terror and despair, became a testament to the power of redemption and the enduring strength of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable darkness. The grinding gears. The old mill had stood abandoned on the outskirts of Willowbrook for as long as anyone could remember. Its decaying walls and rusted machinery were a haunting reminder of the dark past that lingered within. A malevolent spirit stirred within the mill, the ghost of its former owner, a man named Nathaniel Harkness. He had been a cruel and heartless man in life and in death. His vengeful spirit fed on the fear of the townspeople who dared to venture too close. As Nathaniel relived his darkest moments, the gears of the ancient machinery began to turn once more, grinding and groaning with a sinister energy that sent chills down the spines of those who heard the eerie sounds emanating from the abandoned structure. Rumors of the haunting spread far and wide, eventually reaching the ears of a team of paranormal investigators known as the Spectral Seekers. Intrigued by the stories of the vengeful spirit and the ghostly machines, they decided to travel to Willowbrook and document the haunting, hoping to either debunk the legends or capture evidence of the supernatural. Upon their arrival, the team, led by the fearless Lydia and her skilled associates, Marcus and Rebecca, set up their equipment within the mill, hoping to capture any signs of paranormal activity. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the building, they began their investigation, unaware of the danger that lay ahead. As the hours passed, the atmosphere within the mill grew increasingly oppressive, thick with a sense of dread. It wasn't long before the investigators began to experience strange phenomena: whispered voices, sudden drops in temperature, and the ghostly sound of grinding gears echoing through the darkness. Unbeknownst to them, the spirit of Nathaniel Harkness had been awakened by their presence, and he was determined to protect the secrets of the mill at any cost. As the ghostly machinery began to roar to life, the investigators found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival against the vengeful spirit and his ghostly machines. But the grinding gears, now driven by supernatural forces, seemed to have a life of their own. As if possessed by the malevolent spirit of their former master, the machinery began to haunt the investigators, its gears reaching out to ensnare them in their deadly embrace. Lydia, Marcus, and Rebecca fought to stay one step ahead of the ghostly machines, using their knowledge of the paranormal and their wits to outsmart the vengeful spirit. As the night wore on, the team began to uncover the dark secrets that had bound Nathaniel to the mill, a tragic tale of betrayal and greed that had led to his untimely demise. Realizing that the only way to stop the ghostly machines and free the spirit of Nathaniel Harkness was to expose the truth, the team delved deeper into the mill's history, unearthing the evidence that would finally bring the tragic story to light. In a climactic confrontation, the investigators faced the spirit of Nathaniel Harkness, revealing the truth of his past and offering him a chance at redemption. As the vengeful spirit came to terms with his own sins, the ghostly machinery began to slow, the grinding gears falling silent for the first time in decades. With the truth finally exposed and the spirit of Nathaniel Harkness set free, the old mill was once again abandoned, its ghostly machines now nothing more than rusted relics of a dark and tragic past. The Spectral Seekers, having survived their harrowing ordeal, left Willowbrook with a newfound respect for the power of the paranormal and a determination to continue their quest to uncover the truth behind the world's most haunted places. the mill's final tale. For generations, the town of Ashwood had been haunted by the rumors of the ghost of the old mill. The dilapidated structure stood on the outskirts of town, a constant reminder of a tragic past that the townspeople were eager to forget. Though many had heard the whispers and felt the chill in the air when passing the mill, none had dared to uncover the truth that lay hidden within its decaying walls. That was until Eliza, an intrepid journalist with a penchant for the paranormal, arrived in Ashwood, intrigued by the stories of the ghost of the mill and its tragic history. She decided to investigate the legend, determined to expose the truth behind the haunting. As Eliza delved into the mill's past, she uncovered a chilling tale of betrayal, murder, and dark magic. The mill's original owner, a man named Silas Blackwood, had been a practitioner of the dark arts, using his power to manipulate and control those around him in a bid for immortality. Silas had sought to complete a sinister ritual that would unleash an unspeakable evil upon the world, granting him the power he so desperately craved. However, before he could complete the ritual, Silas met a violent end at the hands of his own brother, who had discovered his dark secret. His spirit, now bound to the mill, was left to wander the earth, consumed by an insatiable desire for revenge and a burning need to complete the ritual he had begun. As Eliza continued her investigation, she found herself drawn deeper into the heart of darkness that surrounded the mill. Her every step watched by the vengeful spirit of Silas Blackwood. The line between the living and the dead began to blur, as Eliza experienced terrifying visions of the past and eerie encounters with the ghostly inhabitants of the mill. Realizing that the ghost of Silas Blackwood was not merely seeking revenge, but attempting to complete the sinister ritual that would unleash an unspeakable evil upon the world, Eliza knew that she had to stop him. Racing against time, she delved deeper into the dark arts, seeking the knowledge she would need to confront the malevolent spirit and put an end to his nefarious plan. As the night of the ritual approached, Eliza found herself at the center of a battle between good and evil, her every move shadowed by the ghostly presence of Silas Blackwood. Armed with her newfound knowledge and a fierce determination to save the world from the darkness that threatened to consume it, Eliza prepared to face the ghost of the mill in a final, desperate confrontation. In the heart of the mill, surrounded by the ghostly echoes of the past and the oppressive darkness that had consumed Silas Blackwood's soul, Eliza called upon the powers of light to banish the vengeful spirit and put an end to his sinister ritual. As the forces of good and evil clashed, the mill shook with the power of their battle. The very fabric of reality stretched to its breaking point. With a final desperate effort, Eliza managed to break the hold that Silas Blackwood's spirit had on the mill, disrupting the ritual and banishing the unspeakable evil he had sought to unleash. As the ghost of Silas Blackwood dissipated, his anguished screams echoing through the night, the darkness that had shrouded the mill for generations was finally lifted. As exhausted but triumphant, Eliza emerged from the mill, forever changed by her experiences within its haunted walls. The ghost of the mill had been vanquished, and with him, the dark secret that had plagued the town of Ashwood for generations. The mill's final tale had been told, a chilling testament to the power of darkness and the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable evil. As word of Eliza's victory spread throughout the town, the people of Ashwood breathed a collective sigh of relief, grateful to be free from the specter that had haunted them for so long. In the days that followed, Eliza documented her experiences, her articles capturing the imagination of readers far and wide. The tale of the haunted mill and the unspeakable evil that had once resided within its walls became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface of the world and the strength and courage required to confront it. As for the old mill, its crumbling walls and rusted machinery stood as a monument to the dark history that had unfolded within. No longer a place of fear and dread, it became a symbol of hope and redemption for the people of Ashwood, a constant reminder of the power of light to triumph over darkness. Eliza, her life forever changed by her experiences in Ashwood, continued her work as a journalist, her writing now infused with a newfound sense of purpose. The world was filled with darkness, but she had seen firsthand the power of light to overcome it, and she was determined to do her part to ensure that the world never forgot the lessons of the old mill and the ghost who had once haunted its halls. As the years passed, the legend of the haunted mill and Elise's victory over the ghost of Silas Black would live and pass down through the generations as a testament to the power of courage, determination, and the strength of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable evil. And though the darkness that had once shrouded the mill had been vanquished, the people of Ashwood would never forget the chilling tale of the mill's final tale and the brave woman who had brought this dark history to light. Whispers in the Wind. The small town of Winchire was nestled in a valley, surrounded by thick forests and rolling hills. At the edge of town stood the old mill, a once thriving establishment that had since fallen into disrepair. The townspeople rarely ventured near it, for it was said that the ghost of Mr. Thompson, the mill's original owner, still roamed the decaying structure, seeking revenge on those who had betrayed him. One fateful October evening, a group of 5 teenagers, feeling the weight of adolescent boredom, decided to test their courage by spending a night inside the old mill. Armed with flashlights, sleeping bags, and an old wire board, they set out to uncover the secrets of the haunted mill. The group consisted of Sarah, the quiet and bookish girl Mike, the typical jock Lucy, the rebellious one Tim, the nerdy comic relief, and Emily, the empathetic, nurturing figure. Upon entering the mill, the group was immediately struck by the eerie atmosphere. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, and the wine seemed to whisper through the cracks in the walls, creating an unsettling symphony of ghostly echoes. Despite their initial trepidation, the teens forged ahead, setting up their makeshift camp in the main room of the mill. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they gathered around the wire board, hoping to make contact with the spirit of Mr. Thompson. As the planchette began to move, the atmosphere in the room shifted, growing heavier and more oppressive. The air was thick with anticipation, and the wine outside seemed to howl louder, as though it carried the voices of the damned. It wasn't long before the spirit of Mr. Thompson made himself known, his anger palpable even from beyond the grave. Vengeance, the board spelled out, causing the group to exchange nervous glances. The whispers in the wine grew louder, as though urging them to leave, but they remained, determined to face whatever terrors the night had in store. One by one, the teens were confronted by the sins of their ancestors, as Mr. Thompson revealed the dark secrets that had led to his untimely demise. Sarah discovered that her great-grandfather had conspired to take over the mill, driving Mr. Thompson to ruin. Mike learned that his ancestor had been responsible for a fire that had destroyed much of the mill, causing Mr. Thompson to lose everything he held dear. As the night wore, the ghost of Mr. Thompson tormented the teenagers, seeking to make them pay for the sins of their forefathers. Lucy was lured into the depths of the mill, where she was trapped by the vengeful spirit, her screams echoing through the halls. Tim, attempting to rescue her, became ensnared in a web of spectral machinery, the ghostly gears grinding him into submission. Millie and Sarah, the only ones left, realized that the only way to end the torment was to confront the ghost of Mr. Thompson directly, and some convinced him to release their friends and let go of his quest for revenge. They ventured deeper into the mill, the whispers in the wine growing louder and more insistent, as though trying to warn them of the dangers that lay ahead. As they finally came face to face with the ghost of Mr. Thompson, the girls pleaded with him to let go of his anger and find peace. Moved by their sincerity and determination, Mr. Thompson finally relented, freeing their friends and allowing his spirit to move on. As the sun began to rise, the group emerged from the old mill, their bond stronger than ever, but forever changed by the haunting experience. The whispers in the wine had faded, leaving behind an unsettling silence. They knew that they had narrowly escaped the clutches of a vengeful spirit, and the experience had opened their eyes to the dark secrets that lay hidden in their own family histories. In the days that followed, the teens began to research their ancestors, seeking to understand the events that had led to Mr. Thompson's tragic demise. As they delved deeper into the past, they discovered a tangled web of deceit, betrayal, and greed. Stretching back generations, the whispers in the wine had served as a warning, urging them to confront the darkness that lurked within their own bloodlines. As the years passed, the group remained close, united by the harrowing experience they had shared that fateful night at the old mill. The whispers in the wine had left a lasting impression, a chilling reminder of the power of the past to reach out and touch the present. In time, the old mill was reclaimed by nature, the walls crumbling and the once mighty gears rusting away. The ghost of Mr. Thompson was finally at peace, his spirit freed from the chains of vengeance that had bound him to the mortal realm. Yet, the legend of the haunted mill lived on, a cautionary tale passed down through the generations, and on those dark and stormy nights, when the wind howled through the trees and rattled the windows of the sleepy town of Winchire, the townspeople would swear they could still hear the whispers in the wind, a ghostly echo of the past that refused to be forgotten.